Shalom, everyone. Good evening. Good to have you here. We're going to begin with some song before we get into words.
We're going to start with a nigun tonight, which means the words are just lie, lie, lie. We'll do it a bunch of times, and you're going to hear the same melody later in the service. So Shabbat is always sweeter when we sing together. Please feel free to join whenever you feel comfortable. Lie, lie, lie.
Shalom again. I'm Rabbi Joel Nickerson.
I'm Cantorial Ellen Sugerman.
We have Rabbi Leah Fein here and Susan Rosenstein on piano. So wonderful for all of us to be together. Of course, it's Shabbat. Of course, it's game one. I know no one is looking at scores or thinking about that at all. But last I checked, Dodgers were up 1-0. I don't know if that's changed. Has that changed? No? Okay. The answer to that should be, I don't know, because I'm not checking my phone until after services, but that's okay. So before we go any further, turn to the people around you, introduce yourself, say Shabbat Shalom, ask them how they're doing. We're still in the very beginning of the Torah. Last week we had the very beginning, literally at the very beginning. And this week we have the Torah portion of Noah. And we're going to hear more about that. We're going to hear a lot about different elements of this Torah portion throughout the evening. And the idea of signs and symbols, because there are many of them in this week's Torah portion. And so before we even get into the service, what's so wonderful about our tradition is that we find ways to educate through every single holiday, including Shabbat, right? We have the physical symbols and we have the foods. We always find ways in our tradition to make sure that there is many different ways to engage in a Jewish experience as possible. And so what I love is that we start every service and we begin Shabbat with the lighting of candles. This idea, of course, last week began, the entire creation of the world began with light. But there's this idea that no matter what kind of darkness exists in the world, that in this moment of transition on Friday nights, we can take in and imbue this idea of light in our lives. And when we light those Shabbat candles, we can transform into a different mindset and a different space. So that is our goal tonight. And we're going to begin with Nate Chesnoff, who's becoming bar mitzvah tomorrow, come up with his family to light the symbol, this first symbol that we're going to recognize tonight, which is the symbol of the Shabbat candles. Tell us briefly what you're going to be talking about tomorrow in your Devar Torah.
So I'm going to be talking about Parshat Noach and like the courage and like how he withstood peer pressure and still built the ark, even though he was like being patronized for it.
Amazing, wonderful.
Really good.
That sounds great. Well, congratulations and Mazal Tov. And now you can take a seat for a little while. With that, we are going to move into the idea of the angels of Shabbat that join us on Friday night. You can find the blessing on page 24, Shalom Aleichem, as we welcome in those angels to begin Shabbat tonight. Last weekend, I did a wedding in Ojai. Rabbi Fein officiated at a wedding this past weekend for her family at the Resnick Campus. Now, doves were not released at either of these weddings, but that is a symbol. If you think about it, doves have been released at weddings for a long time, and it goes back, according to some, to the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans, the idea of Aphrodite, the idea of Venus, and that the dove represented this beauty and love. But it actually goes much further back. It goes back to this Torah portion, because of course, this Torah portion is where we get the first example of a dove, and we have the release of the dove that brings this idea of hope to Noah and his family, that the waters will recede and that they will be able to go onto dry land. And this idea of the dove being connected to love, I think, though I can't prove this, comes from its connection to the Song of Songs, which is this beautiful love poetry. I think it's the most beautiful love poetry in our tradition. And we read it usually during one of our holidays during the year, but there's a reference to a dove in the Song of Songs, and this idea that one lover is engaging in kind of some somewhat erotic conversation with the partner, and is talking about this idea of a dove in the cleft of the rock and this hiddenness, and trying to reveal this love. And this idea that there is a piece of love that sometimes is harder to reveal, but that when we delve into those relationships with intimacy, with honesty and openness, we can reveal something that otherwise is hidden from the rest of the world and other types of relationships. And that's really what we get into in this next prayer. L'chadodi is this idea of revealing a relationship between the Jewish people and God. And this idea that as we transition into Shabbat, this is a time for us to open up our hearts, just like the light is to open up our minds and to help us transition into Shabbat, so too L'chadodi is this idea of let's open up our hearts to the world around us and to what Shabbat can bring into our lives. So we're going to continue with L'chadodi on page 20.
for Baruch Hu on page 28. Please join me.
Does anyone know what Noah does once those waters recede and he gets off the ark with his family? Does anyone know? This is next level trivia for the story of Noah. Nate, do you remember? Do you happen to remember? No, it's okay. I put you on the spot like that. So the first thing that Noah does once he gets off the ark, first, he sacrifices some of the animals. You don't usually think about that. The other part that we don't usually teach to our children, and even as adults, therefore, we don't learn, is a really important piece of the story, which is that the first thing that Noah does is he plants a vineyard, he grows grapes, and he gets drunk, and he passes out naked in his tent. And it's a really interesting story that most people don't know. It's part of the reason given as to why it says in the beginning of the story of Noah that he was righteous in his time, not righteous for all time. The next person who comes along, Abraham, becomes righteous for all time. And one of the reasons may be because of what Noah does in response to the tragedy and the trauma that he experienced on that ark. Because I think we tend to imagine, at least when I was teaching my little girls when they were young, the story of Noah's Ark and the children's stories, you imagine the books, the beautiful ark with the rainbow over it, and the giraffe's head sticking out of the top of the ark, and the blue water, and maybe an elephant, right? All these wonderful things, and it's such a cute story. But in reality, that is not what the scene must have looked like at all. I mean, the water must have been disgusting with bloated bodies of animals and humans, and just, it was not a beautiful scene. And Noah and his family somehow survived that, and that must have been traumatic. And the first thing that he does is not the healthiest thing. And I think that's an important lesson. Already towards the very beginning of the Torah is teaching us some of the bad things, some of our actions that tend not to help us. And this is really an example that there are times where we may be tempted to try and kind of fog the challenges in our lives. And that's what Noah does. And yet, God still loves the Jewish people. God still loves Noah and his family, goes on to then build a relationship with Abraham, even though God is now seen destroying the world doesn't make humans perfect, because here we have Noah as a perfect example, and yet that love still exists. And every service we have references to this love, this idea that no matter the mistakes we make, no matter the challenges that we face, that there is still a force out there that we should believe. And it doesn't mean you have to believe in God in a traditional sense, but that we should believe that there is a force of love out there that can bring us a sense of calm, and that is non-judgmental, and that can support us through those challenges. And this next prayer is an example of that. Every night we have this reference to this love that exists all around us, that we just have to recognize that it exists. So we're going to continue now with Ahavat Olam on page 32. Please rise.
To come up and recite Ve'ahavta. Oh, and all of our Farsam, please come join us.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, וחיות הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך uvlechtecha baderech, uvshochbecha, uvekumecha, ushartam leot al yadecha, vehayud letotafot beinenecha, uchtabtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha, leman tishkeru, Vaisitem et kol mitzvotai, vaitem kedoshim lelochehem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Yasher Koach, and thank you to Nate and to Oliver. One of the amazing things that Nate and Oliver just led us in is a reference to a covenant in the V'ahavta on page 36. This covenant that takes place between God and the Israelites and the Jewish people. And one of the words that's used in the V'ahavta is the word ot, which means sign. And we see here an example of how every single covenant from the Torah has an ot, has some kind of physical sign that goes with it. In the context here of the Shema and V'ahavta, that physical sign of the covenant between God and the Jewish people is one in the tefillin, which is worn on the hand and on the forehead between the eyes, and it's also referencing the mezuzah, that physical ot, that physical sign that we have in every single doorway, in every single physical liminal Jewish space that we occupy. And we see this same theme of otim and signs coming up over and over again, including in this week's Parsha about Noah. We're going to be hearing a little bit later in our service about the covenant at the end of the Parsha. And one of the most famous pieces of imagery in this Parsha is the rainbow at the end of the flood. And God says that when God puts the rainbow in the sky, it is an ot. It is a sign of the covenant between God and humanity that God will never again destroy the world. And these signs that the Torah invites us into with every single covenant invites us to see different symbols of this covenant in our everyday lives, whether it's outside in nature, whether it's something we wear on our bodies, it is something on the doorposts of our homes, on the doorposts of our gates. We have these physical reminders, and as we listen tonight to Nate and to Oliver chanting V'ahavta for us, we also see how this covenant is upheld in our next generation. We are going to continue with Mi Chamocha on page 40. Mi Chamocha this week feels particularly special in that we had been marking Mi Chamocha, this song, this prayer for freedom and redemption in our services since October 7th as a prayer for freedom and redemption for the hostages. This is now the second Shabbat that those hostages are free and are no longer in captivity. And at the same time, during this prayer, we still hold in our hearts and in our minds the 13 hostages who were killed, whose bodies still haven't been delivered back to their loved ones. We hold their families with us as we sing our prayer of freedom, our prayer of redemption, Mi Chamocha, on page 40.
Mi Ga'al Yisrael.
Amen. We'll continue with Hashkivenu, our prayer for protection on page 42. Hashkivenu describes the protection from God as creating a Sukkot Shalom, a canopy of peace, so much like the ark that we read about in this week's Parsha. And we think about the own protection that we all need and that we can also create on page 42. The Amidah, but before we do, I just want to call our attention to page 50 in your Siddur. We added a little piece to our Amidah ever since Shmini Atzeret, about a week and a half ago. At the top of page 50, you'll see there are insertions into the Amidah depending on the time of year. So right now, we are going to say the winter portion, Mashiv Haruach Umorid Hagashem, asking God to bring the wind and to bring the rain. We happen to, living in Los Angeles, live in a very similar climate as Israel. But no matter where we are in the world, whenever we say the Amidah, whether it is in the winter or summer, any time of year, we link ourselves to our sacred homeland. Whether we are inside or outside in nature, we still feel that pull and that yearning. Let's all rise. We'll begin our Amidah on page 46.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el ha'gadol ha'gibor ve'hanora El Elyon Gomel וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל.
We'll continue silently with our own private prayers and meditations. Use the words on the page or the words in your heart. Shabbat with God's promise to us never to destroy the world again. And so the translation of what you're about to hear is, the day of rest should not be forgotten, its memory like a fragrant odor. On it the dove found rest. There shall rest exhausted ones. And so in this poem, the idea is that on Shabbat was the day that the dove found rest. And it ends with, the nation which wandered like bewildered sheep, may he remember them. May God remember them for God's covenant and oath. As God swore at the waters of Noah, on it the dove found rest. There shall rest exhausted ones. And the melody is going to sound very familiar right now.
Matzo
the end of this Torah portion, we move away from the story of Noah to the story of the Tower of Babel. And the rabbis say that one of the challenges of the Tower of Babel, and just to refresh your memory, the whole idea is that all the people of the world decide that they want to build a tower all the way up to God so they can be like God. So God at the end decides to make it more complicated for them by creating all these different languages and spreading the people throughout the world. But the rabbis go even further and say the challenge was not only that they were trying to build a tower to heaven, but that as they were building that tower, as they were putting every brick on that tower, they didn't care about anyone else. That if someone got in the way, they would throw the person over the side of the tower, and that the bricks were more important than people. And so the rabbis, of course, are trying to teach us something that we hold on to in our tradition dearly, which is that this is not a world just about us, and we are not the center of the world. And so we always have in our service a moment where we think not just about ourselves, but we really think about the healing that is needed for those in our own community, for our own lives, around the world. So Misha Berach is our chance to remember that we are all trying to build something together, and that requires all of us to be thinking about those who need the strength and the courage to overcome the challenges they're facing in their lives. So we're going to turn now to the middle of page 253 for Misha Berach, and we're especially thinking of these members of our community who are in need of healing: Cynthia Allen, Bonnie Chiswick, Chaim David, Dalia Bat-Farangi, Harvey Fein, Juliet Gottfried, Hannah Harar, Karina Wallen-Harar, Cindy Jacobson, Chris Mintel, Lenore Motley, Quincy Rose, Ansel Sloan, Shraga Stern, Lois Tarter, Deborah Wallen, Don Weiss, Phyllis Kramer-Wolf. Any other people whom you're thinking of who need some healing? Thank you. Think of all of them, and we send them strength and prayers of healing as we join together, middle of page 253. As Rabbi Fein mentioned, we're in week 2 since the return of those hostages, but there is much work to be done with the healing and rebuilding of Israel. And so we are still taking time during our service to send hope and prayers to the people of Israel. So I ask you to turn to the bottom of page 374 and ask you to please rise for Hatikva.
I have been looking forward to this moment all week. When Rabbi Nickerson and Cantorial Sugarman and I were planning the service, Rabbi Nickerson was saying, well, this is Parashat Noach, the story of Noah. Wouldn't it be great to have a veterinarian from our community come and speak during our Shabbat service? And I said, I know just the guy. My cousin, Dr. Jordan Cole, is a veterinarian. He's a member of our community, and he graciously accepted our invitation to come and speak to us tonight about his own experience as a vet and what that means for all of us and the human-animal bond that we see so beautifully in this week's Parsha. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Jordan Cole.
Thank you, Cousin Leah, Rabbi Fein. Shabbat Shalom. It's an honor to be up here. Just a warning, as alluded to, there will be a fair amount of animal discussion ahead. But if anyone in the congregation has a pet allergy, don't be alarmed. There's no show and tell tonight. Noah spent a lot of time with a lot of animals. 206 days with 2 of every species, to be exact. This story is one of the first documented instances of something very special called the human-animal bond. And as a veterinarian, I have spent most of my life pondering and experiencing this phenomenon firsthand. Domesticated species have long filled vital roles for us humans as protectors of villages, hunting companions, pest controllers, assistant shepherds, rapid transporters, caravan haulers, suppliers of food and clothing, the list goes on. And animals still play many of those parts today, in addition to search and rescue, detecting dangerous substances, servicing those with disabilities, and providing therapy. You don't have to think about it too long to realize that our species would be nowhere near where it is today without all those species helping us out along the way. But that human-animal bond goes both ways. As many of you know at home, our animals also rely on us. Now more than ever, pets are being treated as parts of the family. The number of times I've heard clients refer to my patients as their literal fur babies is countless. Pets delight us, comfort us, motivate us to get off the couch and go outside, keep us responsible. It feels like there's some of the last real-life vestiges in our ever-expanding digital world that we can see and touch and love without a screen. And it's not just the typical dog or cat. I've seen people perfectly recreate the temperature, humidity, and UV light levels of a Madagascar rainforest so their chameleon can thrive. I've even seen a couple bring their young daughter's sea snails in for an annual checkup. I'm not kidding. It doesn't matter the species. The human-animal bond may be different for each individual, but it is very real for everyone who has lived with a pet. When people find out I'm a vet, they invariably tell me about their own animals. And actually, by far the most common story I hear is centered around death. Whether recently raw or years in the past, I've found that people vividly remember, often with deep emotion, the end of their pets' lives. And as someone who has both professional and personal experience with euthanasia, I can wholeheartedly agree that while I consider it the utmost privilege to relieve suffering, it is profoundly difficult to lose a non-human companion, and for many, that grief lasts a lifetime. Pets occupy such a uniquely special place in our hearts, and one of the most beautiful aspects of all is this: they're not here forever. Our animals have the power to teach us to be in the moment, to love every second you have with something, to enjoy life to the fullest while you can. It's pretty incredible to think how much we can learn from sharing a bond with something that can't even talk, isn't it? But whether or not you own a pet or are even an animal person at all, there's so much we can learn from other species. Seahorses and penguins teach us the importance of co-parenting. Ants, bees, and naked mole rats show us the power of teamwork and cooperation. Salmon, desperately swimming upstream, embody inspiring stories of dedication. And elephants and dolphins are just a couple examples of the role that community plays in survival. But the most important thing that we can learn from other species involves the concept of one health, that the health of humans is inextricably reliant on the health of animals and the environment. In the Torah, God didn't send animals on the ark with Noah because the human-animal bond is just some cute, warm, fuzzy idea. The human-animal bond is also very scientific and medical, with very real-world implications for us all. Because if we pay attention to the well-being of other species across the planet, we can take better care of ourselves here, too. A clear example of one health includes zoonoses, infectious diseases that pass between species, such as coronavirus, influenza, and Ebola, that often start in populations of animals and then spread to people in places that may be very far away from Los Angeles, but because of increasing globalization and connectedness, pose a potential threat to us here as well. But One Health is about more than just predicting the next pandemic. It's about ensuring that our food is treated humanely and is safe enough for us to consume. It's about surveilling vector-borne disease whose boundaries are rapidly shifting. It's about monitoring the quality of water and air, not just in our backyards, but on the other side of the world too. Many have referred to the current era as the Anthropocene, which means that as humans, we have decisively become the dominant force on our planet. And over billions of years, Earth has developed into a delicate balance of biological communities that is now being upended by one species, us. In the last century or two, the equivalent of a blink of an eye in geologic time, humans have affected weather patterns, reshaped ecosystems, and wiped out so many organisms that scientists have concluded we are currently witnessing a mass extinction event in which species are vanishing at up to 1,000 times the normal rate. And because every species plays a role in the functioning of this planet, because we are all connected, the effects of declining animal and environmental health eventually trickle down to humans as well. It's as if we've forgotten the sanctity of the human-animal bond that Noah was tasked to preserve all the way back in the book of Genesis, when God made sure that Noah protected every species because they each were, and still are, vital to the future of our world. It is no wonder, then, that the story of Noah and the animals and the flood ends on a note of promise and responsibility. The rainbow in the sky symbolizes the covenant that God makes with Noah, with all living things alongside him on the ark, and with the generations to follow after the flood. And as inheritors of this covenant, we all have a duty to uphold the vital relationship we share with other species. That role looks different for each of us. It may involve striving to live more sustainably, or being more aware of current events, or volunteering for a beach cleanup, fostering a shelter animal, just going bird watching, or participating in tikkun olam, whatever that means for you. So the next time you see a rainbow, let it remind you of the dignity and connectedness of all living things with whom we are lucky enough to share this earth. Shabbat Shalom, and of course, go Dodgers.
another wonderful Jewish doctor right there. Thank you, Dr. Cole. Where's your practice? On Sepulveda. If you have an animal in need of veterinary care, Dr. Cole will be available afterwards for you to... Are you still taking patients or no? Always. He's always taking patients. Yes. Thank you, Yashikah. Thank you for that teaching. Just a couple of announcements. First of all, thank you to everyone for being here, to Dr. Cole, to the Farzam and Chesnov families, Mazal Tov to all of you, to Susan Rosenstein. Next Friday, not only will it be Shabbat, but it is a holiday that usually the Jewish community shies away from. If you go to a Jewish day school, God forbid anyone talks about Halloween. But the truth is, I learned from Rabbi Feinstein at VBS when I was younger. This idea, it's actually a very Jewish moment. It's one of those moments where we actually open the door for a stranger besides Elijah during Passover. Right? It really is one of those few moments left in today's world where you're not necessarily checking the Ring camera before you open the door. And how wonderful it is to still have a moment in our society where we really have become much more insular, to have a little bit of faith in humanity to open up that door for a stranger and offer them something. But in addition to that, there are, of course, these ideas of the skeletons and the demons and the witches. What you may not know is that our tradition is full of stories about demons and witches, even in the Torah, and giants. And so next Friday, if you want to learn more about these things, to honor Halloween, you can come and join me in Century City. We're going to do an in-person lunch and learn Torah study. It's going to be in the CAA building at the Gibson Dunn Law Firm, and we're going to learn about some of these stories about witches and demons and Satan. The idea of Satan does exist in our tradition, just a little different from the Christian version. And we're going to learn about some of these things to walk into that holiday with a Jewish lens. So that's coming up next week, and that will be a part of a series of in-person Torah studies that I'm going to be doing once a month at that location. Of course, we've gotten through, bless you, with this weekend. We have the California Institute of Yiddish Culture and Language presenting Bashevis's Demons in line. 3 short stories by Isaac Bashevis Singer on October 25th at 7 p.m. here, and on the 26th, which is Sunday, at 4 p.m. And it's going to be this incredible, wonderful showing of these plays in Yiddish with, of course, subtitles, and really kind of a taste of a different world, but in a really beautiful, meaningful way. So I hope you can come to that as well. And you can go online and find out about all the many other things that are going to be coming up in the next few weeks. So with that, we are going to turn to Aleinu. As we get to our concluding prayers, they're in the middle of page 282 in your prayer book, and I ask all of you to please rise. Actually, one more announcement related to next Friday, just so you know, because we are close to one of the epicenters of Halloween madness on Homewood, where they close the whole street, and it seems like this whole side of the city goes to Homewood for trick-or-treating. Next Friday night's Shabbat service will not be taking place on this campus. It will be at the Irmis campus, because this campus will be very difficult to get to. So if you come regularly and you want to show up next Friday night, don't come here, go to the Irmis campus. With that, we are going to turn to the Mourner's Kaddish. And as we have been doing now before the Mourner's Kaddish each week, in addition to reading the names, and we always have a long list of names of people whose yahrzeits we're commemorating on this Shabbat, we've just taken a few moments for anyone who's thinking of someone in particular this Shabbat, and they want to share not just their name, but maybe a word or two about who they were or what they meant to you in your life. We're just giving the space for people to add a little bit more context to some of the names that we read for our yahrzeit list. So does anyone have a name of someone they're thinking of? Yes.
This is the yahrzeit of my dearest, bestest BFF friend, Melinda Scheinkoff Miller. And we called each other Boog and Schnoog. It was a long story. Melanie was my bestest friend. She was diagnosed with ovarian cancer at an early age. And she taught me an amazing lesson of how to squeeze life out of every minute. She died way too early, but she was a fighter. She went down swinging. In her obit, we couldn't remember how many times she got married. So her sister and I put that she was so beloved by so many people that she was married a lot. She had the best sense of humor, and she was, I think it was her lust for life that was the most amazing. Anyway, she was wonderful, and I miss her every day. My Boog.
And my grandmother, Minerva Chaskis, who was irrepressible, outgoing, force of nature, and didn't sing very well, but sang absolutely everywhere all the time, whenever she could, and taught our entire family a lot about loving life.
The yahrzeit of my father, Christopher Knaut, who was born in 1929 and had 14 children, and I'm the youngest. He loved music. He went to Harvard Law School, but the only story I ever heard of that was that he hit a high C on the trumpet and got into the band, and he never hit it again. He passed away 11 years ago, and around family, and it was a nice moment. It was actually as I was playing the last note of his favorite hymn, and he was he had a long, good life, but so just remembering him.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Thank you, Rabbi. My biological father, Milton Franks, who I met about 5 months before he passed away at the age of 93. He was a mechanical and a computer engineer who, after the War of '67, did an aliyah and moved to Israel to help Israel establish the computer infrastructure that became what it did, because he wanted to make sure that he could help Israel have a stronger foundation and rebuild itself. So he passed away on October 20th, 2 years ago, a few weeks after this disaster, October 7th, of a broken heart. And I remember him sending me articles and pictures from the paper in Israel of the disasters that were occurring then there and the atrocities, and said he didn't know how long he was going to be able to manage dealing with this, what's going on, how horrific it was. And 3 weeks after that, he passed away on October 20th. So anyway, I'm grateful that I had a chance to meet him while he was still alive at 93. And so, you know, and I appreciate you letting me share. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you for those who shared. We're thinking about them. We're also thinking about the following people. First, these who passed away in the last month in our community: Alice Layden, Freddie Markowitz, and Annette Tucker. And the Artsites: Pauline Abrahams, Melvin Adler, Jack Anditch, Gilbert Anyon, Bernard Bash, Teresa Ruth Bell, Murrah Ben Gera, Ida Block, Maxine Bookman, Edwin Frank Brockman, Helen Breitbart, Minerva Chaskis, Gloria Chosen, Marvin Cohen, May Colburn, Sam Cordova, Leslie Davidson, Donald Deschelle, David Dragon, Alex Engelman, Bess Etzhotkin, Sol Etzhotkin, Deborah Falcon, Mark Fox, Emma Friedman, Fred Franklin Fry, Bernard Gerard, Carrie Hayden Gerson, Derek Gerson, Marvin Gerstein, Samuel Goldfarb, David Goodman, Lawrence Goodman, Eugene Goodwin, George Green, Gloria Grossbart, Sidney Guthman, Louis Handel, Ada Hecht, Sari Heller, Harvey Hertz, Sally Holm, Louis Hyman, Rowan Iskoff, Berta Izkbalek-Kow, Jerome Jaffe, Elise Kahn, Miriam Klein, Christopher Knopf, Ruben Commissar, Michelle Liddell, Jerome Lightman, Russell Leventhal, Harry Lever, Francis Levy, Raphael Levy, Ida Lieberman, Melvin Daniel Littman, Harlan Liss, Samantha Mack, Minnie Meadow, Esther Medina, Sandy Menon, Marvin Miller, Melinda Shenkoff Miller, Paul Miller, Marion Millett, Carl Neustadt, Thomas Nilsson, Greta Panish, Laura Pashkow, Sarah Piet, Muriel Pivo, Sam Prell, Estera Pulvermacher, Nathan Ranon, Aaron Reifman, Dorothy Ressler, Barbara Rich, Bernard Rodsky, Ethel Rubin, Alan Ruvelson, Lee Schillinger, Siobhan Selvin, Lily Chappelle, Alexandre Shapiro, Nathan Shepard, Malia Schleinberg, Rose Sikoff, Melvin Singer, Donald Silverman, Lillian Stone, Jerome Sugarman, Judith Sussman, Aileen Sweet, Samuel Taub, Betty Traeger, Albert Touch, Joseph Tushin, Louis Tuller, Arturo Umansky, Claire Waldo, Elaine Weinstein, Jack Weisblatt, Elaine Weiss, Renee White, David Yusuf, Margaret Zickerman, Louis Siff, Molly Ziff. Any other names to add to our list this evening? If you're in the period of Shiva, 7 days since the passing of a loved one, or 30 days since the passing of a loved one, if you could rise. If you're in your first year of mourning, or if you're here to commemorate a yahrzeit in particular, if you could stand at this time. I ask all of us to please rise. We turn to page 294 to remember all of them, to remember those who gave their lives defending our country, defending the state of Israel, and those who have no one to say Kaddish for them as we join together in Mourner's Kaddish. Yikadal v'yikadash Shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei ve'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agalau v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudusha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Feel free to put your arms around the people near you. of Shabbat, Kiddush, and Motzi. Come on, Oliver, come on over.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'v'ratzon.
There will be challah and grape juice out in the hall for you. Join together in Mutzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.